I convene the June 19, 2024 regular board meeting to order at 7 p.m. Jackie, please call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Emily Swistak.
Here.
Karen Larson.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Debbie Bryan.
Here.
Vanessa Berry.
Here.
Josh Martin, absent.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, opportunity for visitors to speak. Public comment is for the general public to address the board. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide public comment. Would you like to speak? Okay, thank you. Anyone else contacting us to speak? Thank you. Agenda item 3 is the election of officers, where members will elect the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer for 12 months. Item A, may I have a motion and a second for president?
I'll move to elect Emily Swistak as president.
I'll second.
Discussion? Any other nomination before the board? May we have a vote?
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
I get to turn it.
Yeah.
Switch some spots.
Switch some spots.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Passing up the torch.
The gavel.
The gavel. All right.
Gives it a good look.
Okay. Okay, well, item number 2 is election for vice president. May I have a motion and a second for vice president? I move to elect Marjorie Bartelli as vice president. I'll second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Any other nominations for vice president? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye. Congratulations, Marjorie.
Thank you.
President Bartelli. Okay, may I have a motion and a second for secretary?
I move to elect Liz Sullivan as secretary for the Lisle Library District for a 12-month term.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, any other nominations for secretary? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations to Secretary Sullivan. Okay, and then may I have a motion and a second for treasurer? I move to elect Karen Larson as treasurer. I second. Discussion? Any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, Treasurer Larson.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'll just do this one. Oh, no, that's here. Okay,
You might want to
this part.
mention that.
Yep. Okay. At the July meeting, I will announce the appointments of members to the standing committees. If trustees have a desire to work on a particular committee, please contact me individually and let me know which committees you're interested in serving on. The standing committees include finance, physical plant, and personnel and policy. The president is a voting ex officio member on all committees. The director and assistant director are non-voting ex officio members on all committees. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 4 acknowledges that Trustee Berry and Trustee Bryan reviewed the May billings in June, and that Trustee Larson and Trustee Sullivan will review the June billings in July. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Is there a trustee who wishes to pull something from the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swistek,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Debbie Bryan,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Item 6 is unfinished business and the capital improvement project. 6A 1 and 2 include the renovation project, HVAC replacement project, and a presentation on the vacant lots. Mark, would you please update the board?
Sure, and I'll give the first part just on the old project first, and I'll get up on the dais and give a quick presentation on the second part. So on the main entry, capital improvement plan, this is the project that completed last year. We are in final closeout mode right now. We did have Camosi's final payment request issued. We're holding that until we get the final seal coating done. Seal coating is the last item. We did have that pay app reviewed by the architect. The architect signed off on it. We just want to make sure we have everything done. We believe the last thing that for them to do is the seal coating, which they've committed to doing. Actually, they're going to do it Memorial Day, but
July 4th.
they're not doing it July 4th because the weather. Memorial Day did not cooperate with being able to do that with seal coating. So it's good news though. They are standing up to their product. They're coming back out. They're doing it. So great news. It wasn't even an argument. They just said yes, they do it. That being the case, we are still tracking with over $100,000 of contingency amounts available still. We do believe next month they should be able to release more to that. I've asked the architect for their final payment now that we've got them to certify the final contractor's payment. With that, we might have a little bit of funds actually releasing back to contingency further from what we're projecting right now. No change orders, invoices are in there, and you actually see the CCS invoice, let's call it out right there. That does account for both work on the main entry, but also for future projects and getting them all squared away. So it's not just main entry, so you're aware. With that, I'll jump into, unless there's any questions on the closeout of the original project, I'll jump into the next one. We have a little bit of a presentation on that one.
Does anyone have any questions for Mark on it?
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes, and as I set up for the next one, Eddie's going to pass out just a quick board meeting presentation so you could have the information for the lot discussion. And we'll go through, as he's doing that, the executive summary, information, mechanical replacement, and capital replacement progress, but those are more updates.
Thank you.
I think that's okay. We'll see what his
Yeah, it's,
projection looks
I
like.
could see it when I plugged in before with the lights fully on, so.
Thank you.
That's pretty good, right? Everyone can see
Thank
that?
you.
A little bit darker.
A little bit there?
Can our public commenters see? Can you see? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to start with just an executive summary. What we're here to talk about today is mechanical equipment replacement, not on the big flashy screen right now, capital replacement planning, long range, and then vacant lot planning, which is the screen. To get in front of the mechanical equipment replacement, Alara was approved to proceed with that work. They've spent the past 3-4 weeks actually analyzing the system. They were out on site, they looked at the controller, looked at the head end unit and how it all plays together. What we told the board last time was that they're looking for alternative solutions to try to drive the cost down a little bit if there are alternative means to, and not requiring replacement of all the control units. We have our fallback plan still is to replace all the control units. That's what the library assumed. We're hedging our bets and thinking that we will have to go down that road, but we are looking, we would like to have one more meeting with Alara before finalizing that plan, before launching that way. We do know that there's a retrofit and a recommission option. That option might not get the full goal the library is trying to reach, and making sure you have an open source system where people can come in, other vendors can come in and service it. But we'd probably take one more meeting to finalize that. There might be some in-between options, but we don't know if they actually accomplish the library's goal. So we'll get back to you on that one a little bit further. We do think that once we finalize, whatever the lowest cost viable option is to meet the library's goals, we'll start working on the bid document right off the bat from there. We still think we can get bids in about 2 months from now like we originally planned. Any questions or concerns on the mechanical side of things? All right, the other part of it is that's the BS side of things. The other part of it is the condensing units. We have the one unit that's on this side out of the two that are on this side that we know is at its end of life. It's 20 plus years old. Those systems they're rated for 12 to 18 years. Now, they routinely get over 20 years or right around 20 years before they really conk out. The other 3 that are in the building are 12 years old. So they're in that window. The cost right now to replace those units, each is roughly around $40,000 because you're replacing the unit outside, the piping into the building, and the condensing, the coil in the building. And not to get too technical, it's because the refrigerant from when these units were put in is being phased out. So we actually have to upgrade the refrigerant to a modern type. It's the same thing if you have an older house, when you replace your units, you have to get a new refrigerant. Well, it's the same thing here. The question that we'll be posing to the board probably next month will be, do we look at just getting one unit replaced, the one that absolutely needs it, or all four, because you probably get a little bit of a more economical price doing all four at the same time, knowing though you have some life still left in the other three. That'll be a little bit more discussion there, but we think we're worst case scenario there, we'd probably go out and get a price for both options and see what we end up with. Just to give you a heads up there. The last thing is boiler, and we got some good news there. So they reviewed the boiler. They are recommending that we are not replacing it at this point in time. And they're recommending that because the unit itself can be maintained. It's the parts and pieces are still available. You can get at the parts and pieces for the type of boiler it is. So their recommendation, and it's one of two boilers, their recommendation is to keep on working it unless you have problems, then look at replacing it. But for right now, don't spend the money on it, which is good news for the library. Any questions there? All right. So next steps is discussing condensing units and via scope as well. So we'll come back to that next month. I think is probably the appropriate time for that. Capital replacement. We did have one meeting with the library. We started showing some of how we're going to approach this and the timelines and all the equipment layouts. So we got the layout right. So now it's another getting all the inputs in, and that's taking some time. So we're on schedule. We think it's another month or so before we're actually presenting to the board that information. Next thing to know is we get the vacant lot planning, and we'll jump into the presentation right here. That's really for discussion. Please interrupt me at any point in time with questions. I'm just going to walk through this. We have some different imagery to try to spark some discussion. This truly is meant to be a discussion, not just presentation to you. So right off the bat, we've got two vacant lots the library owns right now: the south lot and the the east lot. So we took a look at those just to orient everybody. You can obviously have to see how long the east lot is and the south lot is, and pull them rectilinear in terms of the site itself. And obviously, I think we all know the library owns out this whole area here down, just to orient everybody. This is the topography of the sites. Now, this is rough. It's not surveyed. This is from a GIS system, but it gives us a good accounting of what's going on here. And what these lines all indicate, if you're not familiar with them, this 720, that's the elevation from sea level. So this line is all at the same height as it goes across the site. So here's actually 720 there. So you can see it dip, and it comes up around. It's a swale as the drainage goes. So right here, you've got a big drainage swale, basically. Here's your 720 line, goes out like this. 715 is the next old line that's right here. 1715 goes, it's about 5 feet, obviously difference in elevation on the site, aligns to the corner of your building here, just outside your old main entrance, not your current main entrance. Why I'm putting that out is we did get asked if we can look at any possibilities on the east side. I want to look at those a little bit later down the road, because if you see this site, yes, you can get from your current site to the east lot by walking across. We'd have to do some drainage detailing and things like that. But once you get there, you don't really have a flat landing spot to do things on. You're going to have to do significant grading, retaining walls, things like that to do anything there. So we didn't spend too much time really honing in the options there, because it would just be very extensive work to do a project there. We can discuss it if the board has strong feelings about that. But just wanted to show the topography, show that we didn't really have a straightforward spot to land and put that out there.
I think that's an important point, because I think it was Trustee Martin who asked, is there an access point to come from our lot to the Front Street lot? You're calling it East Lot.
East lot, Front Street. Yeah, I'll call it Front Street.
Lot. And then if we were to do that, you're saying if we had some kind of access walkway to that spot on the Front Street lot, there's some undulating surface areas, and we would have to completely do something there to make it ADA compliant and other things. So right now, it's cost prohibitive.
Right.
Since we're talking about the other lot that's more probably feasible to develop.
You can see how tight spacing these lines are. Every line is a foot of elevation, so you're going a foot. You can see in the other lot, you have a significant gap between the spacing, which allows for ADA egress and things like that a lot easier. We've got a few different arrows here. You can see, just on the west side of it, off Kingston, you've got two areas where you can get basically from the street or the sidewalk right at the lot, and you can see that yourself. There's actually a little pathway, and it does this section in the corner right now to get out there. There's even a spot, it would be somewhat tough. You'd have to put some sort of ramp there, or you could get directly without even having to go out onto the sidewalk directly onto the lot, just past the retention area. Now that is, you can see there are some lines in between here, and that does mean there's some elevation, some ramping, so it might be a little bit cost prohibitive. But if that is something we truly want to go and investigate, we can down the road. Just want to show there's options there comparatively.
There's no entrance at all to the parking lot from the Kingston. There's no way to get into the parking lot without going around to the sidewalk.
right now.
Right now.
Yep. We
Okay.
could maybe do something here. That's this
Right,
arrow right here.
that's, okay,
This
Further changing.
circle where it ends
Yeah.
is really where that detention ends. And there's about a 15-foot wide swath of land that we could try to flatten out and do something with that can get there. But it would be an extra cost as compared to going out on the sidewalk and coming back in.
What about from the opposite side? Is there a retention wall there too, or is it?
So you do have this right here, but if you want to stand there, and that was my first thought. My first thought was actually over here. You can start to see those lines. Correct. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet of elevation up before you even get into a workable spot. And on top of that, there's actually a lot of vegetation and things there. So that'd be a significant ramp to try to make it accessible.
I guess, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, and nothing from like the back part of the parking lot either. That would be, you'd have to like almost build like a stairs or something to come
Correct.
up.
Yeah,
Okay,
so you're at
yeah,
720 right here.
Uh-huh.
This is,
yeah,
that's 726, and it's hard to see.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
again, 6 feet roughly.
Shoot. All right.
Not that it's not possible, and if there's something, we're talking very high level, and what we want to do at the end of this goal is not design your lot for you. We want to get some idea of what could be done on the lot, so we can give some crude guideline pricing, and then, if you've got the right timing, once we have that pricing, you say, yeah, we want to go investigate it further. Then we bring on a designer to actually go and do stormwater calcs and everything else that really gets to a real number. But before launching on that and hiring a designer and spending money, and then we wanted to at least give a guideline.
Liz, what was your question?
I was just wondering, on the east lot, the south end of the east lot, if we ever needed to expand parking, is there any possibility to use the south end of the east lot to expand parking?
I know that there are zoning regulations on how you put the parking in there that we'd have to look at and see how it's zoned, especially at the back end of this residential property here. But just looking at the topography, there might be something you can do, and you can see that's these lines jut around, but they're not crazy tough. It's a little bit more feasible. But I'd be more worried about how that works out with zoning and everything else.
Okay, because I think at one point we were talking about if the attendance at programs continues to grow, we might find ourselves wanting more on-site parking. So that was one of the uses that we were thinking of for the east lot, understanding that the north side of the east lot had a more topography issues than the south side of the east lot.
And to your point, you're looking at that ramp, we all know, going over here anyway, so you're already up at elevation when you're at that back part of the lot, like you're saying. I think constructability-wise, it's an option down the road, but we just have to really carefully look at what and how it's all, what the setbacks are, all that fun stuff.
I would assume it would be similar to what we have in what is currently our staff parking lot, would you think?
It is, but I don't know off the top of my head what the zoning classification is of that lot right now.
Okay.
If it is a R1 and how that then plays into, because you have a PUD over the lot for the library, planning and development. And
So it's residential.
right, so you'd need to update the PUD to incorporate that lot and then apply, and then there'd be special regulations and review processes over that portion of the lot.
Well, it's something that we can definitely look into the zoning of and see if that's an option for down the line if necessary.
Right, if necessary.
Right.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Any other questions before I get off this page? That was a good one. All right. Hard to read on this screen, so I'll zoom in a little bit, but you guys do have printouts of this. Zoom here a little bit. We'll see some pictures and some examples. So what we tried to do is we like coming up, and some of you will remember this when we went through the program definition phase of the renovation project. We like coming up with a checklist of things to talk about to make sure that we know what to include, not to include. And some of these things we purposely put on there knowing that they're going to be a no, but we'd want to confirm our assumption is going to be a no. So this is just, the scope inclusion columns are just our initial take at it from reviewing a little bit with staff. But they're not set in stone, so let's talk about them if you don't agree with them or do agree with them, and or if you see something and you want to talk about it a little bit further, let's go into the detail of it. So category by category, lot access, let's start there.
And this is for specifically the Kingston lot.
Good point, yep, Kingston lot, so south lot, Kingston lot. The drop-off area, we know we want to have a functional drop-off, nothing big, but somewhere where if you're bringing on a truck, dropping off a trailer or something like that for a program that needs to access the lot, that you have a pathway to do that. It's not necessarily supposed to be a paid parking lot area or anything like that, but you want a drop-off area to get something there. The parking lot itself, we're saying, no, you don't need a parking lot because you have a parking area. The gateway, it's like fence is yes. Now, whether that fence is the whole lot or just maybe around the gathering area or some portion of the lot is something that we'd like to discuss and figure out what your initial take is there. So maybe keep that in the back of your mind when we show you the plan, but I would like to get a little bit more definition because fences aren't crazy expensive, but they can add to cost depending how big the scope gets pretty quickly. The gateway entry, and what we mean by that, we'll show some pictures, is whenever your pedestrians are going to go onto the site, whether it's something that's substantial like overhead that they walk underneath, or if it's just a sign off to the side or whatever that might be to symbolize we're going into a program area, if that's necessary in the first place. We put it here as a yes for discussion points, but obviously that's something to talk about. And then a path on the lot itself, walking around. Again, whether that's needed or not, something to discuss, but we assumed yes for right now, so you can actually have a pathway to do something on and make use of for programming. The landscaping itself, trees, we're assuming that we're taking down some existing trees that are dead. And maybe there's some small plantings, but nothing major. We're not assuming that there'll be major tree planting on the site. Site shrubs, plants, and perennials would just be planted maybe at the back of the lot to kind of create some, something of interest at the back, and maybe around some of the program area where it's appropriate, but nothing, again, major there. We put low-mow seeding as no, and what that is, you have a large lot. There's seeds out there that it's grass. It grows to about 8 to 12 inches tall. It doesn't grow much taller than that. It is definitely taller than your standard grass. It looks different than your standard grass, but you don't have to go and throw a lawnmower every week. It's basically throw a lawnmower over it maybe a couple times a year at most. It's an option. We're saying no for now because it is a different look, but just putting it out there to confirm that our assumption is correct. Stormwater detention, retention is really going to depend on the design of the lot and how much surface area you put on there and any zoning implications. So I put that as an unknown right now. Once we get down the path, we'll look at that one. But just heads up, that's out there. The outdoor program area, one thing that we threw out there, and you'll see a picture of, would be like a tiered seating setup. It goes up elevation where you have a spot to sit, but it usually has a cost to it because you have a concrete or something that is tiered. You can do it with just landscaping, but there's some cost to that. For now, we put it as no, because we might not need that big of an area or an elevation change. A gathering space was a yes, and open grass space was a yes. Playground equipment, what we mean by this is just small things. So the statuary would be frogs or turtles or books, something to crawl on, climb on, something like that. Nothing huge, but something of interest. We're assuming no fitness equipment. Again, that's one of those we're just putting out there to make sure we're not misinterpreting things. Playground equipment, again, something small, maybe a little tiny slide or something like that for little kids. Might be something that you might be interested in, so we put that as a yes, again, for discussion. Water features, we're saying no, that we don't need water or anything like that. The next one would be site signage, we're assuming yes, but what that is, we'd like for you guys to weigh in on, whether it's just an entry sign or if it would be signs throughout the space or what you might envision there. And keep in mind, this is an ongoing discussion, so you can take it in today and come back to us next time. You can email the director. We can take your input as we go. seating shade structures, this is intended to be something that's shaded over a bench, let's say, not a big structure, but something small that if you're out there, it's a sunny, hot day, you can get out from the sun without having to come into the building, especially if you go out to the sidewalk or walk around the parking into the building. Benches itself, we said yes to both of those. Picnic tables, we said no to for right now, for discussion. Trash receptacles, we're thinking just one, something to put somewhere on the site. Bike racks, sail shades, those are those big fabric ones that go from post to post, we're saying no, but again, just throwing it out there. Light poles and fixtures, we think these are gonna be more residential style fixtures that might just illuminate a path and not maybe the whole ring path, but maybe a spot, like the gathering space. You get to a spot, you have a light there. Paver areas, again, maybe you have a paver to get to the gathering area. It's not necessarily meant to be the whole thing. Mulcher is a yes for the plantings. We are assuming there's no special restroom facility or storage room on site, so anything that would have to be brought there from the library for a program, for instance, would be brought from this building. So no structure there is what we're assuming, again, for discussion. And then technology, we are assuming that you have some level of security out there, being a camera of some sort, and that you do have wireless service out there, and that we're trying to get data out there or some way of getting it over there. Any questions before I look at pictures and start hopefully getting some of your thoughts there? Did that chart all seem to make sense and no, I'll call it objections or think differently? Any assumptions? These are purely assumptions at this point.
Anyone have any comments?
All right, going well. And then just pictures again, just trying to get feedback from the computer. There we go. Okay, so gateway access, you can see the types of things we're thinking of here. Now it could just be a sign instead of something you walk under, but you can go as opaque, I'll call it, as putting some books up there, or you can do something a little bit more decorative and subtle, it blends in. You can do something that's just a sign. If we're going to assume some sort of gateway entrance as a cost, does anyone have any sense of where they'd like to see things?
I would say more towards the simple, in my opinion, yeah.
Is even that too much?
No.
No, I think it needs to draw attention a little bit from where the location is, because it's kind of going to be tucked away.
Some kind of archway that,
Yeah, I kind of like that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And when we do the, I'll call it design for this, we're not going to show images of all these things, but having your input from today's meeting is going to help us so we can make the right assumption in our numbers, Landscaping and outdoor program area, there's a tiered seating idea you can see at the bottom. Again, you can see it's got a little bit more concrete, a little bit more structure, a little bit more cost, obviously. And the pathways we're thinking, not pathways, the mulch areas, the planting areas, it's what we've all seen, I think, in a lot of different developments. It's grass, it's nicely edged, let's call it, and it goes to a mulch area of some sort. Is that about? I'm assuming this is a yes, and this is still a no. Sounds good. Now we get into playground equipment and site furnishings. Again, we'll be by small, little. The library found a couple of these pictures. Sitting up here in a turtle veil, it's something that can be climbed on, played on a little bit, but nothing massive. Just something there. I don't know if anyone's gone to like Ozzy Zoo or whatever else, and my little kids love the little, I think it's a turtle, and the little bit turtle out there. Yeah, they love that. That type of thing, I think, out there fits a library.
And we have turtles.
And you have turtles. Jack and Jill, exactly. A paver path, if we talk the pathway around, whether that's gravel or pavers or concrete, that does have a cost impact. What we're showing up here is a paver pathway. Pavers are more expensive, they rock, but it's an option, it's a viable option. Or you can do something that's concrete. Or think of this, it's really dim, but that's like a crushed gravel.
I think it's something that strollers can be pushed on.
So probably not pavers and not gravel, you want concrete, which is actually a good in between cost.
I'm going to interject for a second. So for years since I've been on the board, I have wanted to find something where we could incorporate a brick paver like fundraiser thing that people could buy a brick and get it engraved and put it on something and be part of it. So just to have that in the back of our heads, if that's something that we could consider doing, maybe is incorporating that somehow in there. And I understand about like the concern with like it not being even, right? So like a smoother surface, but I wonder if there's something that we could do that could incorporate it in there, because I'm sure that people would
Maybe somewhere.
Well,
in the
maybe
entrance.
at the entrance, you know, you could have it kind of be there and then go
Or even if
to.
we were if you're able to do a pathway from the parking lot to it without having to go up to the
Mhm.
sidewalk, like that, or I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Or if we did a concrete walkway, it wouldn't keep us from having pavers along
Along the sides, they can line the sides.
Yeah.
Or I have seen two where, we did this actually at a different library with a pathway through garden. It wasn't as big as this, but where they had like a bench, they actually did like a 5x10 area that was an area where someone could park a stroller or whatever else, and that was the pavers next to the
Okay.
pathway. So you
Yeah.
can kind of play, it's like areas of it, that it's not necessarily the whole path.
So
That
just
no-
like that little piece right there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's
Yeah.
expanded a little bit longer, so it's a little bit more of a gathering area or stopping area, so you should see the paver if you bought.
I just think that would be a great thing for the community, and I think a lot of people would be interested in doing that and supporting the library in the process.
Okay, so we'll include that, and then just so we're all on the same page too with the lighting, and you can't quite tell, but this is not a huge lighting pole, it's probably somewhere around 10 feet tall. And it's just the residential grade, it looks a little more modern, it's not like the old school ones that you see in, I'm just gonna put like the old school 101 Dalmatians pathway out the park, and I think of that 'cause my kids are watching that constantly right now, but it's not like the old fixture, or matches the motif of the library.
That's more respectful of the residents next door, just to have something a little more demure
Right.
than our big parking lot lights.
And then again, that would probably, we would assume that that's just going out to maybe the gathering area, and it's kind of on when it needed to be on for something. And it can be programmed however it needs to be, but small, only a couple, nothing like throughout the site itself. Okay. Again, same thing, just continuing along, these are a little bit bigger figures. The one thing Eddie actually wanted to bring up, I'll put him on the spot, is it'd be one thing to put the statuary in like the playground area or whatever else, but do you want them, it's for discussion, do you want them spread out around the lot? If you do a path, and see if a stopping point, to, go on a small little turtle halfway down the path or something like that. I don't know that it matters too much in cost, but knowing whether it's 1 or 4 or 6 of those might actually play into it. Something to think about whether you want to go out to a spot. That's why I threw a couple extra there. Then we also have the equipment, and our impression, we might have some of the smaller pieces here. You kind of see the traditional park, and then something like this where it's just a small little slide and steps up or something there. And don't think you want to go to the residential grade again. Showing some pictures out there just to show them, but I think we're more in this range than that range, and maybe 1 or 2 of these.
I'd agree with that.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now getting back with all that imagery, I think we're all kind of heading in the right direction. We made the right assumptions so far. You can see the different entry options onto the site itself. Your current path, you've got a little sidewalk here, and your current path is somewhere right around here onto the lot. It goes a little bit of an angle. That other path where we'd actually lose a parking spot or 2 to get onto the lot would be here. And losing the parking spot might have a little bit of impact on things for the library itself, especially if we're worried about expanding parking down the line, which is like with that discussion with staff too, we kind of thought that this might be more appropriate than losing a spot or 2. Not to say you can't ever do that, but at least the initial assumptions right now might focus here with maybe the drop-off area, which is just kind of a flat pathway to get something to back up onto the lot temporarily and pull out, would be away from that over here. Any thoughts one way or the other, especially on the 2 options here? Is our correct assumption here, don't lose the parking spots?
I kind of like the access from the parking lot.
Me too,
I
and then
mean-
it's staying on library property as opposed to having to go out
Yeah.
to the sidewalk.
Right.
I don't know how other people feel about
Well, I think it also encourages people to park there. I feel like if, the natural thing, they're going to end up parking on that side street across from St. Joan and walking across, just brains go that way when there's an event. I feel like this still encourages them to use our lot. And because if our big event will be there, all the parking that usually gets taken up by the event will be free for people to use too. It kind of opens up that whole back lot for parking. So,
And the drop off would back up and you have a corner there
yeah.
coming in from, is that Division?
Yeah, right over, where St. Joan is.
By the
Yeah.
rectory,
Yeah.
So you're turning you're coming north on Kingston.
Mhm.
So you know how everyone wants to drop their child off
Right, you
closest
drop
to the
it
entrance,
there instead of dropping here.
right?
I don't know if this is possible with the drainage, but it would be nice to be able to walk out the entrance and just go straight.
Absolutely, Vanessa.
The only problem is.
Yeah, I know with the
I
drainage.
thought a nice little.
Make it
footprint.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can, there's cost. So we can try to throw that out there just to
Although
see what it costs,
that
but
really
it's,
would be,
that would be ideal. You'd have to
that would
go,
be,
Mhm.
it's right here, essentially.
yeah,
You can see it's kind of continuous all the way across.
We need a bridge, yeah.
Yeah.
you need a bridge, yeah.
The
Can it
other,
be a paver brick bridge? You know?
And we've all seen those bridges though that are at like a park district where else they are, there's a cost.
Mhm.
But we could,
How about
Yeah.
a rope bridge and then a thing?
there you go.
Right,
If you
right.
lose a kid, you lose a
It
kid.
could be a zip line. Exactly. That would be a feature then.
That's how you get back from this back corner.
Yeah.
Do you know what, though? There is an advantage to the bridge because it prevents traffic from backing up on Kingston. Because my concern with either place that you put entrance to the Kingston lot, you're going to have backup. If people are dropping people off, if people are dropping children off, even if you're having entrance from the parking lot to the Kingston lot, you're going to have backup onto Kingston. But if you had it halfway up the lot,
Mhm.
you'd actually have some staging area. You'd be putting cars, staging them in the lot as opposed to on
I
Kingston.
will say that any change we make to, even if we lose a parking spot or two, because you have a PUD on the library site, we would need to go through a bit of a zoning process to get that going. I would anticipate that would be a question, how is this going to function? Where is it going to function if we're going to be losing a parking spot? So it's something to think about, like you're saying.
I think investigating a bridge is something to
Yeah,
look
I think
at.
from like a parent's perspective too, like not even so much the drop off, but the pick up is like, I would be much more comfortable with my kids waiting like in the middle there of the parking lot than right on Kingston.
And I think what we meant by drop off, it wasn't specifically for picking up children.
But for
It was more for,
bouncy houses and stuff.
dropping off equipment, dropping off, like if we needed to rent.
Which I still think you have there, regardless.
We do,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
But we wouldn't
right.
like feature
But
it
we
as-
don't want people pulling in
No.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's not an entrance.
people will
Right.
enter that area from there regardless of
Yeah.
what we do. But if we make a bridge and like that's where the gateway is, then it might,
Right. Well, if it's across from our entrance here, so it's kind of a natural
yeah.
spot that people are looking for, I think it would look really nice.
So investigate that a little bit further, I think is.
I have one more suggestion. I like the bridge idea a lot. I'm just worried about the cost. The other thing is, I was thinking about, I know we have some greenery here, and we were thinking about having it coming from here, and some of the comments were, how are people gonna know it's the library versus something else? If we got rid of a good chunk of what's green here, and then we had like an arch that encompassed, like where you could see if you drove into the library, you saw the arch here, in case we can't afford the bridge. Having some of this greenery taken away so that people understand it is part of the library, it has an arch entrance. This is where you enter, that might be like the less expensive solution.
Mixed thoughts. Sorry?
No.
I just said thoughts, it just didn't make sense.
Just thinking it through in terms of the way we would cost things too at a plan level, I think the lot development itself, it doesn't really change much if you bridge or no bridge, because you're still gonna have the same components on there. So really, we can have that plan in our back pocket of saying, okay, maybe it's just, we'll plan to take down a little bit more over here and make this a little bit more clean as a real entry point. But the added cost will just be alternate for a bridge. It's just a pure add. Whether that entry becomes cleaned up in over here or over there, it really doesn't make a difference at this level.
I think it's good to see both.
Okay. So using that as a segue, I think we got some great feedback and direction already, but we'll make the kind of the add all be in the bridge here. But this gathering area and this playground area, again, for the turtles would be something small. that could be here or towards the middle, wherever that goes. But just relatively in terms of scale on the lot, I think we want to make sure that we're making the right interpretation. That those are kind of smaller areas in the lot, and there's a large grass area in the middle. Then you have a path that kind of meanders around and goes out to maybe the extremities. Of the site itself. We showed that little gateway entry over here. We showed a little pathway from the gateway entry over, but that would be more this way now in the base option, with the bridge being obviously pushing everything else over. Is that scale about right? Or is everyone saying no? I want a really large gathering area, really, besides the grass. Keep in mind that might be a paved area, whereas this is all grass.
What kind of programming space is staff hoping to have over there?
So doing the library-wide programming, library-wide events like Fall Fest, Summer Read.
So like the large grassy area is more important, right, than the gathering area, or what? I just wanna make sure that we understand what
Sure.
staff would use it for.
So when Will and I were speaking with Mark and the group, we were talking about we want to be ADA compliant, number one. So it's important for us to have a paved area, concrete area for those who may use a wheelchair or walker or whatever. So that having that near wherever our entrance is was important so that people could still participate in programming. And then next to that, having the playground area. So if, let's say, you're a grandparent not a walker and you've got a child you're taking care of, you can be in a safe zone in terms of stability, and then the kid can play on the playground next door to it.
Okay.
And then having a walking path around. We'll have the idea of moving the story walk that we have to this area instead of on the sidewalks outside. And then the grassy area for just running around or having even story times outside.
Yeah.
Kids can run around, play around. We can definitely come up with some, I think, just creative ideas using the grass too. You're doing science experiments that, we need height for and things like that. So that's why we came up with this kind of a orientation.
And to give you a sense of the size we're thinking about, and again, it's for feedback to get what your thoughts are. This meeting room space, both A and B together, would that be about the appropriate space? The blue purple box being the gathering area, or is this a little bit too big? You need half of the meeting room type of thing, like
That's large.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for how much space? I think the lot is large. I don't think we need that big of an area for everything.
Will, do you have any idea of feet-wise, how much space we take up in the lot now for the program? I'm getting, this is just an observation, I'm getting a feeling we have too much playground and not enough. I don't know how many feet that lot is. Approximately, of course.
And I'd have to take a look at it a little better, but you're thinking that this,
Well,
before thinking about feet, I guess, would you want a gathering space, the space that
Well, absolutely,
accessible to
I
be
think,
this whole size?
well, I mean, we take up from pulling in, where the stop sign is?
Bring up the
From there all the way to the back,
Yeah.
to the south.
the other one.
Okay, that's a large area.
So like this
And
is
it
where
feels cramped
from
now.
right here to here is where we.
I think some of that stuff though, like the bouncy house would most likely go in the grass.
Right.
And
Okay,
So, sorry, Vanessa, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, the gathering space is not designed to, at least you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I think our intent was not to have everything crammed onto there,
right,
but for
okay.
that to almost be like the launching point for people who would need a more stable spot to be. And 80% of the program would be in the grass. So like the bouncy house would be in the grass. I'm trying to, what was our
Petting zoo.
petting zoo would be in the grass? Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, I think
Dave.
then the playground equipment would have to be strategically placed, that you're not.
So it's not in the way. I'm thinking if you have it bouncing around all over, which would be kind of cute,
That's
but
what I'm
to
getting at.
program around all of it might be.
And that's why you have
Tricky, yeah.
designers, I mean,
And to put it in
Right.
proportion, I guess this white box that is put over the parking area, this would be kind of your grass area proportion, with the front of being from that curb that you're entering on to that white area as being kind of your gathering space. So it'd be kind of I'm guessing right now, but it's like 3/4 grass area and quarter stable gathering area. Is that about?
I mean, even you can see, so like these are the dumpsters. We don't go any further back than about here. And then we almost never, we try to avoid putting things in front of
But it's
this spot
side.
because cars are always coming. So really our programming space is, we've like down the board.
Okay.
This is about the programming space we currently use when we're out there.
I mean, sometimes we'll go back a little further,
Exactly.
but
Sometimes we'll go back further, sometimes we have had to have the food truck right here, which is where we've had staff positioned to like really monitor traffic.
Well, I understand, I'm just saying if we have the opportunity to expand it so it doesn't feel so cramped.
No, I agree. I think if this is what we're used to and it feels cramped,
Right,
you take this box and if we've got like gathering here and park here, we have all
of that
this
other
grass
space.
to really spread
Okay.
out. Especially like, as all of you have been to these programs, sometimes those lines just waiting to get in the bounce house mesh with even if we just can give it that much more space to separate between the events, you're not sitting on top of people.
yeah, having some elbow room on the grass, I think is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And you're getting a sense here, night, it's hard to rotate in the program, I've got it, I'm sorry. But that's the same thing as happy over here, and you can see how little space and a lot it takes. I think the point is valid in that we need to have kind of that much space as the gathering space, but then everything else becomes ancillary.
thanks.
All right. So I think that was really, it was enough to get some feedback from you so we can start putting this all into a program and making sure that we're heading in the right direction before we start pricing things up. Any other thoughts, questions that we want to talk about as a group?
You had a question about the fencing.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. So assuming either way, does that fence need to be around this front area where you got the ability to open up to the grass area? Do you need it to be over the larger area? Do you need it just to be a visual deterrent where it's just across and in, but not actually a fully enclosed fence? It doesn't need to be fully enclosed and locked and everything else. Any thoughts one way or the other?
Is there any requirement from the homeowner that we have to fence that? I mean, where I live, we don't have fences by choice. But if a homeowner wanted a fence,
I don't know
To
that a
separate.
homeowner would have any ability to say anything. The only thing I could think of would be like if we had to go through a PE process.
right,
That would be more of a village request than a
exactly, right,
neighbor request.
okay.
It is something that, if you're going to do something here, we typically would want to get involved and at least make sure everyone's aware of what's going on.
I would suggest having a fence between our property and the neighbor.
I think so as well, just
Yeah.
because if people are
Absolutely.
on our program space doing things and then they
Wander.
go wander over to the neighbors, I don't,
So they're basically
Yeah.
maintenance. Okay. Would you go, say we do get that entry here or even here, does this need to be fenced with a gate so people aren't trying to get onto?
No.
That's all, so it's really just from the neighbor.
I wouldn't want like children just meandering
into the
over
neighbor's property.
or, I think having a defining line is important.
I agree, 100%. For both sides of it, because, you don't want the neighbors to be expanding their parties, into our space either. Depending on where you live, if you back up to like a school lot or something, people just kind of.
We know where the Thanksgiving football games, and it's like.
Yeah, right, there you go, yeah.
Anything else I forgot, or you just generically want to talk about?
That's good for a first discussion on
Yeah.
like what we're looking at.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks.
I feel like you made it very understandable for those of us who, this is not our, background.
And you went and found a bunch of pictures of some of the libraries, so thank you.
Yeah. Just the lots and understanding space and
Yeah.
elevation and stuff. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
That's it for our report.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7 is committee reports. 7A is finance. Any report?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Personnel policy? Nothing at this time. Physical plans.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
night.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye. Strategic planning. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 1st at 1 p.m.
Let me check
We all
that,
have
make
that?
sure it's on my calendar, Emily. It's a good
Monday.
reminder.
July 1st, 1 p.m.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Agenda item number 8 is staff report. 8A is the director's report. Director Weinstein.
Okay, so on June 1st, we hosted the summary kickoff party, and it had to happen once. One of these years, the day before, we got word that it was going to rain. I don't think in the last 10 years we've had a rain date, right? More than
We
10
have
years
not.
probably. We've had some close calls where we've had some threats. That guy.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've had some threats, but this year they confirmed it was gonna rain all day, so that obviously forced us all to pivot, and we swapped the large outdoor obstacle course with a smaller one that actually fit inside this room, so did a good job with that. We installed tents that went from the pergola area to the good humor truck. We moved all the information tables around in the building internally. We had to completely rework the brochure because we had all of the little events on there. We had printed them all out. We recycled them, but we had to redo that. Then we also had to retool all of our social media posts to let people know we were going to have it rain or shine. So that happened. So the staff did an excellent job, both on Friday and on Saturday. And it was a complete success. We had between 650 and 700 people in the building that day. Everybody thanked us for having something on a dreary, rainy day. And people just thanking us for even having anything out. Because I think a lot of other events were canceled in town because of the rain. So as of tonight, I know I gave you some statistics in the report, but as of tonight, we have 817 kids, 80 teens, and 494 adults, with a total of 1,391 people registered for the program. And the program runs from June 1st through August 10th. So if you haven't registered yet, do so. There's some fun prizes for all ages, I should say. Moving on. Along with the summary kickoff in the first week in June, also came our website launch. This was a long time coming, as you all know, but it was a success. It took some time. So many people had some input there with our IT manager, our department directors, other admin staff helped out with this all. They all contributed to what we believe is a better organized, more aesthetically pleasing, and more responsive design. We have fewer tabs across the top. We've condensed a lot of material on the website. Yes, there will be more tweaks. We've run into some things, and staff are now learning how to use the new CMS. So as we learn more tweaks will happen, but so far so good. I'm hoping that you all find it better looking and easier to use. Okay, next I'd like to mention a few of the partnerships we have either mobilizing or have occurred recently under the Lisle Women's Club umbrella. Staff attended the Garden Gate event. We registered some patrons at the event. We renewed some cards. We promoted Summer Read. I also recently met with a LWC committee member recently to discuss the dedication of the Oak Study Room downstairs. We're currently shooting for an August date for that event. And at this meeting with that committee member, we also discussed having a commemorative plaque being made honoring the Women's Club for their support and for founding the library. So I'm in the midst of working on that with a local business. Next, I want to thank the Lisle Police Department for visiting the library at our all-staff meeting in May. Officer Sean McCabe provided a very informative presentation. He also took questions on active shooter situations. And then lastly, under partnerships, the Village of Lisle, I just want to thank the village's community engagement specialist, Joe, for helping us promote our Rain or Shine event for the kickoff. He did this at the last minute, so he was able to help us out, letting people know that we are going to go forward with our event. So I also have a couple of mentions that do not appear in my report because they came kind of late breaking news. We had a very nice patron connect with the library, connect with me via Trustee Barry. He said he had a Lisle Women's Club documents that pertain to the library. He was refurbishing a home where a former member lived. And so we scheduled a meeting. He came with some items and he had some historical documents. So it was really nice of him to reach out and not throw out materials like that, some historic items. You know, most of the stuff he brought to me are duplicate information, duplicate documents, but we would like to give those to the women's club, so we can do that at the dedication ceremony or beforehand, up to you. But it was very nice of him to supply us with that information instead of just throwing it out and thinking it's
Very
garbage.
nice.
Yeah. Another patron I met with, Joan Brose, and if that name sounds familiar, this is a Lisle resident, a journalist who also used to write for the Daily Herald. She contacted me and wanted to share that her granddaughter published her second book. We own her first book. The new one is called On the Bright Side. And she just wanted to share with me that it was published. And of course, we are purchasing the second one. It was just really nice to hear about a local young author's success. And it's also really important for the library to carry the types of books that this author writes. So the protagonist in the book is hearing impaired, as is the author. So it's important for us, like I said, to have books that some people can relate to if they are indeed hearing impaired. And it's also important for us to carry books that are just inclusive and, you know, you may experience by reading this book something that you've not experienced in your own life experience. So just neat news on that front. I'll also mention that we now have, we have Mac computers in the library. So this has been something that we've been looking forward to. We have one in adult services and we have one in youth services. Staff have been trained on the Macs to help people out, basic skills. Has programs on it like GarageBand and iMovie and then the Safari browser, things like that. I think some youth have test-driven the Mac in youth services, but we haven't promoted it yet because we wanted staff to feel more comfortable with it. So you'll be seeing promotion of that very soon. Oh, yes. And then moving on, our Piazza Bird Dragon Tapestry has a new home. It's upstairs in adult services on the north wall, along with its plaque. It used to be up these stairs in the youth services type of area, but now it's all the way upstairs in adult services. We'll also feature it on social media soon too, so if people want to find the bird, they know where to find him. And then lastly, I just want to mention that the library will be walking in the 4th of July parade. I've heard from 4 trustees who've confirmed they're walking with us. If you are able, please let me know. If you don't know, we walk every year. We push some decorative book carts. We pass candy out to the people. We hear huge woohoos, yay the library, as we walk down the street. So it's a really great time and hope you can be there. That's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the director? Okay, thank you. Sure. Okay. 8B, Assistant Director's Report.
All right. So event team met several times before summary kickoff. As Tatiana mentioned, lots of last minute adjustments, but everything went super well. We are now discussing Fall Fest that is coming in September. So quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
So our event team is actually, we met last week, we're meeting again on Friday. So we're moving forward with that. And then Mark gave you the update on Tatiana and I meeting with CCS, and then CCS and I meeting with different vendors, the engineers namely. So everything's moving along and everything's going well. from my perspective. In the facility, Chicago Metro Fire came out to complete our required sprinkler testing, and that completes all of our annually required testing for our fire safety measures. They've done smoke detectors, they did the sprinklers, and they had to do the elevator inspections. We do those annually. So that's all done. We're good until next year. And then we had JC Painting come out to clean and sand and restain the pergola area. So they did a great job. They got it done before kickoff, and then it rained, so no one saw it anyway. But it's done.
It looked good.
Yes. And in order to maintain the natural look of the wood, it's probably something we're going to have done every 2 to 3 years. So when that comes up again, that will be something that we'll be discussing with the board on what direction we want to take that. Metal Master came out to complete a wide range of work on the roof. They patched holes in the membrane, we painted over some corroded vents, and resealed some siding gaps. So we should be in good shape up there now. And then Sendra came out. They cleaned our condensing units. The coils were pretty gunked up, particularly after last summer's air quality issues. They definitely need to be cleaned again. And there also was the water pump for the west half of the building. It had been on our watch list for a while, and it finally came to a head in March. We had some heating issues, and that was the culprit. So they came out and replaced components in our water pump so that we are up and running again. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for the assistant director? Okay, thank you. Okay, item 9 is new business. 9A is to adopt resolution 24-02, Lisle Library District Board members. I need a motion and a second.
I move to adopt resolution 24-02 Lisle Library District Board members, a true and correct list of current Lisle Library District Board members.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Debbie Bryant,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. 9B is to adopt ordinance 24-01, an ordinance authorizing non-resident cards. I need a motion and a second, and then the director will summarize.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-01, authorizing non-residence cards, an annual ordinance authorizing public library non-residence cards by the tax bill method.
I will second.
Director Weinstein?
Sure, I just wanted to explain what this is. It means that a resident of an area not served by another public library may obtain one of our cards through the payment of an annual fee if we are their closest public library. And the fee will be proportionate to the fee paid by Lisle District residents determined by the tax bill method, which includes multiplying the current tax rate per DuPage County by the net taxable value of the home. And they do that at the circulation desk for anybody who does that.
Any discussion? Roll call please.
Emily Swister,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Debbie Bryant,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Item 9C is to adopt ordinance 24-02, a meeting date ordinance. I need a motion and a second.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-02, the meeting date ordinance, an annual setting of regular board meetings for the LLD.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I want to mention one thing about this.
Yes.
The only anomaly here is that the August date is an earlier date than the third Wednesday of the month because we need a 30-day window for the budget and appropriation ordinance. So just an FYI on that. Just changes.
August 14th is not the 3rd, it's the 2nd. Any other discussion?
I have a question. It's still at 7 PM though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Debbie Bryant,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Motion passes. 9D is to adopt ordinance 24-03, a prevailing wage ordinance. I need a motion and a second, and then Director Weinstein will summarize.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-03, the prevailing wage ordinance, an annual notice of prevailing wage to be published.
I second.
Okay, motion and second, Director Weinstein?
Okay, so the Illinois Prevailing Wage Act requires that the prevailing wage be paid for certain public projects, and we are also required to post this information on our website. So when it says published, it means we show that to the public. That's it.
Any other questions or discussion on that? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartoli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Hi.
Motion passes. 9E is to adopt ordinance 24-04, an ordinance annexing territory to the district. I need a motion and a second, and then Director Weinstein will summarize.
I move to adopt ordinance 2404, an ordinance annexing territory to the district commonly known as River's Edge and the estates of River's Edge per developer petition.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second, Director Weinstein.
Sure. So Pulte Homes, if you've heard of that developer, is developing land on Route 53, and a sliver of that land is within our district territory. Pulte contacted me for the procedures to how to annex in to the district, and I connected with our attorney. I drew up the ordinance, I helped them craft their petition, and all the documents are within the packet. After approval, if you all approve of this, we will file that documentation with the county. And basically what this means is once homes are built there and people move in, they will be our residents, and they will have district benefits.
So there's no homes there now, and they're
Do they know how many? Did they give you an estimate?
They did. It's about 5 acres, but I'm not sure. I think it's a mix between townhomes and larger family homes, so I'm not sure.
Any other questions?
The village has that, there was a meeting on that, I believe, at Village Hall, and they do have a handout on that.
Oh, okay.
It's
Shows like the
proposed,
plan.
of course.
Okay.
I believe we saw that information. There was a public meeting, not a library
Oh,
meeting,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm sure it went through planning and zoning, and that there were some
right.
some discussion at the village meeting too. Yeah.
I was just curious how many households it would add.
Whatever can fit on 5 acres. I'm not sure.
It depends.
But I know the other part of that development is in the Woodridge.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
Roll call please.
Emily Swister.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartoli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Hi.
Okay, motion passes. 9F is to adopt ordinance 24-05, a transfer of funds to special reserve fund. I need a motion and a second, and then the director will summarize.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-05, the transfer of funds to special reserve fund, a transfer in the amount of $120,000 from the corporate fund to the special reserve fund under 75 ILCS 16/40-50.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Director Weinstein?
Sure. So, as you know, we budgeted $60,000 to transfer to special reserve with an option to transfer up to $120,000. And with the HVAC discussions, with the vacant lot discussions, moving the appropriated amount of $120 before the fiscal year ends will allow for it to be accounted for in the next time we conduct an audit, which will be this fall. And when we prepare the next B&A, which is also this fall, we will more than likely account for more funds being transferred from corporate to special reserve, just depending on the amount that we will be expected to expend in the next couple fiscal year, in the next fiscal year and probably into the next, depending on how long this project takes. So I would recommend transferring the full 120. And then when we get harder numbers from Mark, because right now we have about 500,000 in special reserve, and moving this into there, we will come up with a new special reserve ordinance once we get harder numbers from Mark. So we're kind of moving in that direction of expending funds on a special project or a capital project. And that's why we have to move funds over.
Okay, does anyone have questions for the director about that? Any other discussion points on that? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, if there is no objection, before we move on to 9G and executive session, I'd like to move item 11 up so that trustees have their opportunity to give their comments before executive session. Are we okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna start with Vice President Bartelli.
Nothing at this time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Treasurer Larson,
No, I don't have anything at this time.
okay. Secretary Sullivan,
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Bryan.
Well, I just want to say again, great job on this special event. You guys, I just am always so impressed at how organized and just how you could pivot into the rain plan. And yeah, it was great. There were lots of happy people. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Berry.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. I would just like to congratulate the new officers for this year. Thank you for entrusting me as president. I hope I do a good job following Marjorie. And I also just wanted to say how great of a time the summer kickoff event was. Despite the rain, I was so impressed with how many people were here, and they just kept coming and coming and coming, and it was just really exciting, and everyone seemed to have big smiles on their faces and all that. And then I also wanted to share that today I was actually in the library this afternoon and I ran into a family that I know, and they have not been in here since the renovation was complete. And so they just were like, oh, I can't believe how beautiful this is, and it's so nice, and I love the two entrances, and and just talking about all the things. And it was nice to hear people excited about the renovation because they haven't been here, right? Now we're at the point where we're like, this is just how the library is. And so when you have someone that comes in that hasn't been here for a while and gets to experience that, it's just really exciting. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to throw that out there as well.
Nice.
All right, thank you. Okay, we will move on to agenda item 10, executive session. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session? And whoever makes the motion, please read the entire statute.
I move to go into executive session 5 ILCS 120/2C1 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson. Aye. Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes our open session. We will go into executive session. So we are now back in open session at 9:11 p.m. And we'll attend to item 9G, set the director's salary for fiscal year 2024-2025. I need a motion and a second.
You.
No, you.
Here, I wrote it down. There you go.
I move to approve the director's salary of $143,017
For fiscal year.
for fiscal year 2024-2025.
There you go. Okay, it's late.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Emily Swister.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Debbie Bryan.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. You're welcome. Last item on the agenda is to adjourn. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll move to adjourn.
I second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I didn't ask for discussion, sorry. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned at 9:12 p.m.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job, Emily.